One. Well, welcome to the Botanical Medicine Study Course with me, your host and instructor, Stephanie Georgiev. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me, and welcome to all new subscribers. We're getting our numbers up, and I just can't thank you all enough. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing and sharing these videos. Now, at the time of the posting of this episode, it's April Fool's Day, which this year falls the day after Western Easter. And there is a tradition that I learned through the church that I grew up in, which was the Methodist Church. Apparently, this was an ancient tradition where the day after Easter, you're supposed to tell lots of jokes because you're laughing at the devil, because there's now eternal life for Christians. So we would tell lots of jokes those days after Easter. But today, there are hundreds of plants to learn about in terms of botanical medicine. And I'm sure you've noticed, especially because we just finished March, with Women's History Month, I was looking at some herbs that are traditionally used for women's health. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of plants to learn about in terms of botanical medicine, because every place on earth has a tradition of botanical medicine, and there's lots of plants all over the earth. So it's really interesting. It's a wonderful thing to learn about all these things. And so I'm trying to find certain themes because we do one herb a week. And for this week's Herb of the Week, we're going to explore one of the more glorious plants from the Americas on the planet, and it's passionflower. And passion, we've just finished Holy Week, we've just finished Easter in the Western tradition. And now I just thought it was kind of theme to look at passionflower. Now, Passiflora incarnata, the English and Latin binomial of this plant comes obviously from European colonists, because it's an American plant, but this is what the colonists named this plant. Now, the Cherokee in Tennessee called this the Ocoaa, and I'm sure I'm not saying that properly. I deeply apologize. It's spelled Ocoee, Osoee. And the fruit of this plant is called the uwaga in Cherokee. Now, the plant has been used in the region for thousands and thousands of years. Now, this plant is native to a large swath of North America, and the plant gets its colonial and Latin binomial name because of the supposed resemblance of the corona in the center of the flower to the crowns of Christ, the crown of thorns of Christ. Now, this plant is commonly known also as maypop, purple passionflower, true passionflower, a wild apricot because of the delicious fruit of the plant, and it's also known as wild passion vine. Now, passionflower is a fast-growing perennial vine with climbing or trailing stems. And it's a member of the passionflower genus Passiflora. And this maypop has large, intricate flowers with amazing styles and stamens. And because I am a person of faith, I would always love to be able to see why the plants were designed the way they were. And it's like the pitch meetings for different animals and plants. It's like, why did you create it this way? But it is just gorgeous. I think it's an amazingly gorgeous flower. It's one of the hardiest species of passionflower, and it's found both as a wildflower in the southern United States, and it's also cultivated for its fruit and striking bluish purple blooms. The family from this plant it's called Passifloraceae, and this is a family of flowering plants, and it contains 750 species in 27 genera. Now, Passiflora incarnata is one of the most beautiful and useful of this families. The stems can be smooth, they're long and trailing, and they have lots of tendrils. The leaves are alternate and palmately three-lobed. Sometimes they get up to 5 lobes, and they range anywhere from 2.5 to 6 inches long, and that's 6 to 15 centimeters. And there are two characteristic glands at the base of the blade, which secrete drops of sweet nectar. Now, the flowers have 5 bluish-white petals, which you can see both in the botanical drawings and also in this beautiful slide that I got off of Wikipedia Commons. And there's a white-purple corona, which apparently reminded the European colonists of the crown of thorn of Christ. And this has all sorts of fine appendages between the petals and the stamens. Now, the flower is typically arranged in a ring above the petals and sepals. And I think that's really interesting. Now, the passion flower is pollinated by insects such as bumblebees and also carpenter bees. And the flower normally begins to bloom in July. The fleshy fruit, also referred to as maypop, is an oval yellowish berry about the size of a hen egg. It can also be green, though it becomes yellow-green to yellow-orange as it matures. That's why they called it an apricot. And like other passifloras, the pulp is gelatinous and encases lots of seeds. The color of the pulp is originally white, but becomes a dull yellow when ripe. And the seeds are black and they're little. Now, the perennial root and bulb both make delicious fruit when they're mature. Now, what's interesting about this plant is there's historical documentation of Captain Smith's visit to Virginia as early as 1612, and his accounts provide stories of Native Americans planting passion flower vines for the fruits, which they ate raw or boiled to make a syrup. Now, Captain John Smith, description of uses include the preparation of a very tasty beverage made by crushing and straining the juice from the fruits, as well as the use of roots for a tea, an infusion to treat boils, and any type of wounds occurred from like thorns. Also, locusts. Apparently, if you got bit by a locust, this was your go-to medicine for that. And the root infusions, which are teas, were also used to treat liver problems and used as a blood tonic, while the flowers were used as a sedative to treat nervous conditions and hysteria. So that's what the natives were doing with that. Now, Passiflora incarnata is an herb that has extensive clinical applications throughout the world. And most of these applications are evident because it's in all sorts of official pharmacopoeias, like the British Herbal Pharmacopoeia. We also use a homeopathic tincture of this, Passiflora, which is wonderful for all sorts of things. And it's in the British Herbal Pharmacopoeia. It's in the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India. It's also in the United States Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia and the Pharmacopoeia Helvetica. And we find this in official pharmacopoeias, and those are kind of like encyclopedias for herbal medicines in Egypt, France, Germany, and Switzerland. And the main use of this herb is of the flower, and it's nervine, which means it acts on the central nervous system. It's a hypnotic, which means it helps you go to sleep. There's a wonderful tea mixture that you can get from Twinings called sleep tea, or excuse me, Ahmed tea, and it has passion flower, and it's lovely. I find it very useful. We usually think of the celestial seasonings, sleepy time tea, which is mostly chamomile, but this is a wonderful tea to take if you have trouble sleeping. It's also a powerful antispasmodic, which means it helps relieve muscle cramps. Anoden, which is the fancy word for pain reliever, and it also helps lower blood pressure. It also has been used for people who have fast heart rates. We found that it depresses the motor side of the spinal cord, which affects blood pressure. And it also has a lot of flavonoids in it, which help with its antispasmodic and also anti-inflammatory effects. As I said before, it's wonderful for insomnia. It helps ease the transition into restful sleep. So this is a really good one to help you get to sleep, but it doesn't have the hangover stuff. Like valerian is wonderful, but you can be a little groggy the next day. There's also been some wonderful research that say that it's good for seizures, and I would say probably to prevent them. I wouldn't take this while you have a seizure. It's also been researched for things like Parkinson's disease and nerve pain, such as neuralgia or, that horrible shingles pain. This is a wonderful thing to drink if you're having trouble with that. It's also really good for asthma. Now, you need to understand it can potentiate sedative drugs. And do not take this with MAO inhibitors. And you will know if you're on an MAO inhibitor because your pharmacist and your doctor will give you a whole list of things you're not supposed to do with those drugs. And I don't think they have listed Passionflower, but if you're on an MAO inhibitor, please don't take this drug. Now, they have done a study saying up to 800 milligrams of a dried alcoholic extract can be taken over 8 weeks for anxiety, and there were no negative side effects from that. Now, there's all kinds of lovely things in Passiflora, and this is a wonderful graphic from ResearchGate. And the big ones are the polyphenols, the flavonoids, the carotenoids, and the anthocyanins. And the last three there are really good for anti-inflammatory properties, and the polyphenols and all those other interesting things that are in this. The alkaloids that are in there and the saponins, those are things that really work on the nervous system, which produce all the sedative effects and pain relief. Now, as I said before, according to medical literature, it's very safe to take this daily for up to 8 weeks. And as I said before, if you're taking something for 2 months and you stop taking it and whatever's bothering you came back, you need to get a further workup, okay? Because there's an underlying issue that's not being addressed. And we can mask symptoms with herbs just like we can with drugs. So, if you take something for a couple months and then you stop for a week and then everything comes back, maybe it's a good time to go and see your healthcare provider to make sure underlying issues could be addressed. You can put other herbs in your tea with your passion flower to make you feel better. Now, this is available in all kinds of different ways. It's available in homeopathic, where you take it in little pellet forms. Sometimes homeopathy comes in a liquid form. You can get it in capsule, which is usually a powdered herb that's put in capsules. You can take it as a tea. I personally think it's a nice flavor. You can take it in tincture form, and you can also take it as a flower essence. So this is just an extraordinarily useful plant. Now, what's interesting is both the flower essence as well as the homeopathic, you can take those with your drugs because it's basically energy, it's not chemistry. And MAO inhibitors are working on the chemistry of your nerve synapses with the neurotransmitters, et cetera, where what the flower essence and the homeopathic is doing is it's working on the energy. So there won't be any interaction with drugs. And when I was in practice, I really liked both flower essences and homeopathy with both children and pregnant people because there was literally no danger in doing that. You didn't do this. But if you're going to take the herb, you need to be careful, okay? Now, you can take homeopathy and flower essence of Passiflora, but don't take the tea or pills or tinctures or anything like that. So don't do this while you're pregnant. It potentiates sedative drugs. So let's say you're taking any type of anti-anxiety or tranquilizers. This is not a good idea to do that. Do not take with MAO inhibitors. And it's also a good idea not to take this with anticoagulant drugs. And these anticoagulant drugs are usually prescribed after heart attacks or strokes. So again, it's always a good idea if you have a chronic disease or you're on any kind of medicine, prescription medicine, you need to talk to both your herbalist as well as your prescribing physician, nurse practitioner, however you get your medications, to make sure that you're not potentiating or doing not good things with that. So be careful. And again, not suggested for pregnancy, but you can take the flower essence and you can take the homeopathic remedy. Now, Passionflower is wonderful for planting on a wall or a trellis. It's just spectacularly beautiful. And when the flowers fall off, you get this yummy little fruit. You can, if you want to grow this in a pot, you need something for it to crawl up on. So just keep that in mind. But it's really good in gardens if you have a trellis or a wall that you want to be covered and if you want to attract pollinators. And as usual, I have a link in the program notes on everything you need to know about growing this amazing, delicately flowered plant. So however you want to incorporate Passionflower into your life, this is an excellent example of the beauty and healing aspect of nature that I hope you can deeply appreciate and be grateful for. And I just thought this was a wonderful plant to highlight the day after Easter that occurs amongst the Catholics and the Protestants and the Anglicans. This is just a lovely celebration of the renewal of life that Easter actually is all about. So this is Stephanie Georgia saying thanks again for spending your valuable time with me. Make sure to check out the links in the program notes. Thanks again to all of you who are subscribing, liking, and sharing these videos. If you have a comment, please post. I do my best to try and answer. And until next time, be well.